Hello everyone, welcome to IAS Baba's 60 days plan rapid revision series, and this is day 3, and today we have modern India. So as far as history is concerned, basically three types of questions will come. So first one is the chronology type of questions, and second one is those questions from current affairs, so which are in the deep history, and third one are the tough one where we don't get even the materials in basic books and current affairs. So here the first type of questions, that is the chronology questions, we can take all of them correct. So if we have a proper revision, so here we have good amount of chronology. So we begin. So first is the chronology of the advent of Europeans. So how various nations they conquested India. So that is the point of discussion. So first one was the Portuguese. So in 1498, we know that Vasco da Gama came, and Portuguese, they set up their first fort in Cochin. So this P and C, we remember here as PC, personal computer, something like that. Then Dutch. So Dutch East India Company was founded in 1602, and Dutch established their first facility at Masulipatam. So Masulipatam and Dutch, DM, we will remember here. And then British. So we know that Captain William Hawkins, so he landed at the court of Mughal Emperor Jahangir. Okay, so English trading post was set up in Surat, and first factory at Surat as well. So BS, we will remember. So PC, DM and BS. And moving further, Danish. In 1616, Danish East India Company was created, and in 1620, they opened a factory in Tranquebar, so near Tanjavur. So DT and Serampur near Calcutta was their main settlement. So DTS, we will remember here. And then France, so Colbert, a minister under Louis XIV, formed the French East India Company, and they set up their factory at Surat and Masulipatam. So FSM, you will remember here. And overall, the chronology of all these, so first comes Portuguese, Dutch, British, Danish and France. So PDBDF, or the morph of PDF. So likewise you can remember. So these are the chronologies. Then the Churaman Jat and Chatrasal. Friends, these kings from Bundelkhand, Baghelkhand, etc. So although they have not annexed vast kingdoms, but they were famous in their regions, and they had constructed various infrastructures for the welfare of the people. So that's why they become important. So first one is the Churaman Jat. Here the Jat power in Bharatpur strengthened during the Badan Singh and Churaman Jat, and around 1707 Churaman built fort of Thun and established his kingdom, and Farooq Siyar titled Churaman as Rao Bahadur. So Rao Bahadur becomes important here. Then Maharaja Chatrasal. So in Delhi we have Chatrasal Stadium. So such infrastructures are in the name of those kings. So that is why they are famous even today. And he was a warrior king from Bundela Rajput clan, and he established his own kingdom called Bundelkhand. Chatrasal promoted the spread of Nijanand or Parmani philosophy that was inspired by Mahamati Prannath. So here we remember Nijanand, Parmani and Mahamati Prannath. Then Bahadur Shah conciliated Chatrasal and Bundela chief, who remained a loyal feudatory. He also conciliated the Jat chief Churaman. So he campaigned against the Banda Bahadur. So the rebel Banda Singh Bahadur was tamed with the help of these rulers. So these are some of the things which are important here. Then come to next, the important ports. Friends, whenever we study modern history, so the geographical perspective of modern history also becomes very important. So here we have some of the ports, important cities, and we do the map location of them as well. So here we have the Surat, then Broch. Broch is Bharucha, so that is a district in Gujarat now. And then Ahmedabad, Agra and Masulipatam. So Ahmedabad, we know Agra is today's Agra itself, and Masulipatam is in today's Andhra Pradesh. And then further going, the Masulipatam we already knew, and then Mahe, Karaikal, Yanam. So all those they form in Puducherry. And Balasore. Balasore is a district in Odisha. Then Kasim Bazar, so that belongs to West Bengal. Friends, many questions have come like this belongs to eastern coast, western coast, East India, West India. So such questions, if you know the current name and the state, so but obvious it will be very useful. Then we have Masulipatam again. So Masulipatam, Machilipatnam, then it was called. So that is very famous industrial town of British times. And then we have Pulicat. So currently Pulicat Lake, the same name carries. Then Chinsura is a district in West Bengal even today. Kasim Bazar we have discussed already. Patna, then Balasore, Odisha, then Surat, Gujarat, Karaikal, again Nagapattinam, so again Tamil Nadu, Nagapattinam, Kaveripattinam, so all these, then Cochin, Kerala. So Nagapattinam in this coast and Cochin in this coast. So likewise, we will remember. And then some more Tranquobar. So Tranquobar is in Tamil Nadu, Serampur is in Bengal. So we remember likewise. So whenever you do the history revision, so go with the overall history first time, and second time come back and do the geography perspective. Third time come and do the administrative perspective, and fourth time do the art and culture perspective. So these are the various types of studies we have to do for better revision. Then the chronology of Mughals. So after Aurangzeb, so several rulers came. So they were the prelude to the British annexation. So we will study them also, and along with them we compare them with the chronology of other kingdoms. So here we have Bahadur Shah I or the Shah Alam I. So he released Shahuji and son of Sambhaji. Okay, so Shahuji the son of Sambhaji, who was imprisoned by Aurangzeb. And then Farrukhsiyar. So during Farrukhsiyar, rise of Sayyid brothers came into picture. Okay, and then execution of Banda Bahadur, Banda Singh Bahadur also came. And in 1717, Farrukhsiyar he granted firman to the English East India Company. And then Muhammad Shah was the next famous ruler. Friends, there are other rulers here. We are not taking them into consideration. So because they are not so famous, and Muhammad Shah got rid of Sayyid brothers and he countered the emergence of Marathas. But he suffered the invasion of Nadir Shah of Persia in 1739. So we mark Nadir Shah because in the last time Genghis Khan, Taimurlaim, so all these questions have already appeared. So that's why we have to remember them. Then Ahmad Shah Bahadur. So his minister Safdar Jung was responsible for Mughal civil war. Friends, even today we have Safdar Jung Hospital. So Safdar Jung happened to be a great administrator. So that's why we have to remember him as well. Then Alamgir II. He was murdered by a conspiracy of Imadul Mulk and his Maratha associate Sadashivrao Bahu. So we remember the Sadashivrao Bahu here. So he was one of the accomplices of this incident. And then Shah Jahan III. So he was overthrown after the third battle of Panipat. So when we remember third battle of Panipat, we also remember Shah Jahan III. Then Shah Alam II, but obvious we know the battle of Buxar, and Bahadur Shah II, the Sepoy Mutiny. So we will remember them again and again so that we will not forget. Then coming to next, important products traded during the 17th and 18th century. Friends, but obvious, the common ones we already know, which we have studied from the lower classes, but some unique ones UPSC asks, so where we get confused. So again we have to revise. So the cotton textiles we know, raw silk we know, silk fabrics we know, then hardwares, so various kinds of the hardwares used for the mechanical and other cottage industries, so there. And then the indigo, salt petre, so this was one unique one. Then opium, then rice, wheat, sugar, all these we know. Okay, and then important centers of textile industries, so Dhaka, Murshidabad, Patna, Surat, Ahmedabad. So these are the names which are even today the same. So we need not worry. Broach, so Bharucha, Chanderi, Burhanpur, Jaunpur in Madhya Pradesh, Varanasi, Lucknow, Agra, UP, Multan, Lahore, current Pakistan. Then Musulipatnam, Aurangabad, Chikkakol, Odisha. So mark this. And then Vishakhapatnam, we know Bangalore. Then Coimbatore, Madurai. So wherever the names are unique and older one, so those are the ones which are probable appearing in the prelims. So that is why we will remember them. Then Kashmir was a center of woolen manufacturers. So we mark this as the most important one. And then coming to shipbuilding industry. So Maharashtra, Andhra, West Bengal. So all these are the coastal states. So but obvious they will be powerful in shipbuilding sector. Then the Zamorin of Calicut used the Muslim Kanjali Maraikars or Kanjali Marakkars for their shipbuilding. So here the navy and Kunjali Marakkars. So all these we remember. Then Shivaji's navy was one of the best in the region. So Shivaji was not only famous for guerrilla warfare but also for this navy. Then come to next, administration of Robert Clive. So Robert Clive started a society of trade in 1765, but it was later abolished. Okay, so the society of trade, so this set a platform for the trade. And then but obvious we know the battle of Buxar, and then the Diwani rights of Bihar, Bengal and Odisha. So that was accomplished by Robert Clive, and then so he gave something against them. So in return of them he gave something. So what all he gave? like in return of an annual sum of money. And also Allahabad and Koda districts were given and they were returned back to Shah Alam II. So here these facts NCERTs won't carry. So we remember this, Allahabad and Koda district was given back to Shah Alam when Robert Clive took the revenue power of Bihar, Bengal and Odisha. Then Robert Clive did not annex Awadh. So he left it as a buffer from Mughal and Marathas. And then dual government was introduced by Robert Clive. So dual government means the taxation power was with the British and administration was with the Indian rulers. So as and when British taxed and they hiked their taxes, so all those blame went to the rulers and not for the British. So such a shrewd setup was established over there. Then come to next, judicial and administrative reforms of Cornwallis. We know that Cornwallis was the father of civil service, and here are some of the administrative reforms of his. So first one, the civil service reforms. He established the rule-based and merit-based recruitment, and top posts were reserved for the Europeans, but obviously we know this, and Indians were offered lower grade posts such as peons and clerks, and private trade of company was abolished completely. So private traders, so they had to work for the monthly salary, so there was no side businesses anymore. Then judicial reforms. Cornwallis established courts in districts, provinces and the states. Okay, so but obvious, so the courts in the states, provinces and district, 3-tier, and then the highest court was the Supreme Court of Calcutta. So this we remember. And then there was a separate courts for civil and criminal cases. So this differentiation was started by him. And then Cornwallis abolished court fees, and then lawyers were to be prescribed their fees. So lawyers prescribed their fees, there was no court fees. So this brought the courts nearer to the poorer people. Then government servants could be sued by the people for their mistakes. So this was the beginning of control and accountability. And he also banned torturous punishments like chopping off of limbs, nose, ears, etc. So the punishments which are cruel were abolished by him. Then coming to next, the police reforms. He took the control of police from the hands of landlords to the district of superintendent of police. So SP post was set up for the first time, and he established thanas to maintain law and order. So police stations or thanas, whatever we have today, that we owe to Cornwallis. And in 1789, he proclaimed that people practicing slavery would be prosecuted by law. So now slavery became a punishable offense. Okay, so coming to next, eighth one, end of EIC's monopoly. So 1813 and 1833. So this we remember. So the Chartered Act of 1813. So for the first time it explicitly defined the constitutional position of British territories in India. And this act regulated companies' territorial revenues and commercial profits. Companies should invest rupees 1 lakh every year on the education of Indians. So for the first time this corporate social responsibility was introduced, and then this act empowered the local governments to impose taxes. So here the municipalities were given the preference for taxation. And then however the company's monopoly in trade with China and trade with tea remained intact. So these two at least were retained. And then in 1833 the company's commercial activities were closed down and it was made into administrative body of British Indian possession. And companies' trade links with China were also closed down. So this was the nail in the coffin, and after that the trade monopoly of EIC was abolished. Then come to next one, subsidiary alliance and the policy of ring fencing. So subsidiary alliance was asked long back in prelims. So just we go through the keywords and what were the clauses hidden behind that. So it was planned by Lord Wellesley, but this term was introduced by the French governor Dupleix. So we remember Dupleix here. And then an Indian ruler had to dissolve his own armed forces and accept British forces in his territory. And he also had to pay for the British army's maintenance. Then in return, British would protect the Indian state against any foreign attack or internal revolt. So protection was given, but however this was not met. We know that. Then the British promised non-interference in internal affairs, and this was also not met. So the main intent of British was to interfere again and again and annex the kingdoms. Then the Indian state could not enter into any alliance with any other foreign power. Then he could also not employ any other foreign nationals other than Englishmen in his service. So he could not go into contact with any other foreigners, even in case of employment. Then the Indian state could also not enter into any political connection. So but obvious this also comes with the first clause, and then British resident was also stationed in the Indian courts. So the British resident, so you can get a question like consider the following with respect to subsidiary alliance. So all these options will be given. So just go through the keywords and try to remember. Then the policy of ring fencing. So here policy of ring fencing is like, so around my kingdom, so I will keep only my friends, so that they will act as a buffer. Okay, so they will not annex my borders. At the same time, if I help them, so they will act as a buffer. So the ring fence policy was a doctrine enacted by Warren Hastings, and it involved defending their neighbors' frontiers in order to safeguard their own territories. So I will safeguard these borders, and in turn it will safeguard my borders also. And this was reflected in East India Company's war against Marathas and Mysore. So here we saw like whenever British went to annex Mysore, they made friendship with Marathas, okay, or with the Nizams of Hyderabad. So all these are nothing but the ring fencing, keeping a buffer. Then come to next, Portuguese in India. So with respect to UP elections, we talked about the Churaman Jat and Chatrasal, and here regarding Goa elections, we are also speaking with the formation of Goa. That is, in 1967, Goa's status referendum was held in the newly annexed union. So here remember that the Goa annexation, so that happened well after independence, and this was popularly known as the Goa opinion poll. And the referendum was backed by the United Goans Party. And we remember here because Swatantra Party and other questions have also come in the prelims. And it offered a choice between continuing as a separate territory of India or merging with Maharashtra. And the later being the agenda of Maharashtravadi Gomantak Party. So this party wanted Goa to be embedded within Maharashtra. Then it is the only referendum to have been held in independent India. So mark this only word. So this is not the one that has to be struck down. It is factually correct. Then the people of Goa voted against the merger, and Goa continued to be a union territory. And then subsequently in 1987, Goa became a full-fledged state within the Indian Union. So remember the gap here, the 1967 to 87. So likewise, we cross-check and revise. Then chronology of British conquest of India. So from 1600, East India Company is formed. It was formed then, and then 1615, company acquires its first territory in Bombay. And then, so this is acquisition. So setting up of company is different, acquisition is different. Then 1748, Anglo-French War in India. Then 57, Battle of Plassey. Then 1792, so East India Company defeats Marathas and Tipu Sultan of Mysore. So in between, we also have Battle of Buxar. So that we remember. And 1806, Vellore Mutiny. So Vellore, Tamil Nadu. Then first Indian War of Independence, Sepoy Mutiny. Then end of Mughal rule in India, and British Crown takes over India, and beginning of the Raj, that is His Majesty. Then in 1869, Mahatma Gandhiji was born. So we mark this day as very, very important. And then 1877, Queen Victoria becomes the Empress of India, and 1885, Indian National Congress was formed, INC. So Yevo Yum, Dadabhai Naoroji, all those people we remember. Then 1897, Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee. So what obvious? So here so many crores of dollars were spent. So that was one of the reason for the famines. So that we remember. And then 1914, the Great War breaks out in Europe, the First World War, and 1919, Jallianwala Bagh. Okay, so blot of Indian history. And then Parliament passes Rowlatt Act and Rowlatt Satyagraha. So those two we remember. Then 1939, World War II breaks out with Germany's invasion of Poland. And 1947, India and Pakistan became self-governments. So all these are the chronologies. So just a revision so that we will feel as if we have revised whole history. Then Indo, Myanmar and Afghan wars. So this was in the context of Afghan crisis. So they might become important. So here we have our own the numerical orders. So first is the First Burma War 1824. So we take only the initial ones. And then Second Burma War 1852. And then Third Burma War 1885. So this 258 we remember. So 258 you remember for this Indo-Burma War. And also you remember the Treaty of Yandabo, and then the annexation of Lower Burma and then Upper Burma. So first Lower Burma and then Upper Burma, because Lower Burma had good amounts of timbers. So Britishers were enticed by this. Okay, then come to next, the first Anglo-Afghan War. So this was in 1939-42, and then second one, so 1870. So here 40 and 70, 4 and 7, we remember here. So along with that, so here friends, who was defeated and who was died, so all those will not come. So basically we are concentrating on chronology only. So as a brief, the British won the war but couldn't control it. So territory was given back to the local ruler. And then in the second Anglo-Afghan War, so the Treaty of Gandamak was signed. Okay, so here again Afghanistan was kept as the buffer state. Then come to next, the Anglo-Mysore War. So here we have 4 Anglo-Mysore wars. So this we remember as the 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is somewhere around 1770s and then 80s, and here we have 90s, and here we have 1800. 1799 is almost 1800. So remember as 7, 8 and 9, 10. Okay, so in the verge of 1700s it happened, and here we can see the first Anglo-Mysore War, the Treaty of Madras. So here the Hyder Ali was victorious, and that is why he was made the hero of this war. And then the second Anglo-Mysore War, Treaty of Mangalore. So here a bit of defeat happened, and Hyder Ali also died, and then Tipu came. So Tipu came into picture. So in the verge of second Anglo-Mysore War and third Anglo-Mysore War was all about Tipu. Okay, so here Treaty of Srirangapatnam. So here we remember Tipu gives 2 sons because he couldn't pay the debt that was levied by British. Okay, and then fourth Anglo-Mysore War. So here there is no treaty. So here Tipu dies. Okay, so all these. So remember the mnemonic 7, 8, 9, 10. Then Anglo Maratha War. So friends, here the 75, then 80. So here obviously it is some 20 years difference between these two. And then here we have 1820. So here 2020 is one thing we can remember. So 20 years gap between first and second Anglo Maratha War, and again 20 years difference between the second and third Anglo Maratha War. Okay, and but obvious here the Battle of Wadagaon, Treaty of Wadagaon, and also Treaty of Salbai. So those two will be important in the first Anglo Maratha War, and the second one Treaty of Basin. So that becomes important. Okay, and then the third one. So here third one was fought basically for the Pindaris issue. So Pindaris were plundering the Britishers, and Britishers thought that they were doing it under the aegis of Marathas. So all these we remember here. And then come to next one, Carnatic War. So here we have the first Carnatic War 1740 to 48, and then 49 to 50. So here we can take it as 40s and this as 50s. And then the third Carnatic War, so that is 60s. Okay, so 40, 50, 60 or 4, 5, 6. We remember here for the Carnatic Wars. And the causes, the Austrian War of Succession, and then Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle here during the first Carnatic War. Friends, here Anwaruddin, Chanda Sahib. So all those things UPSC will not ask. For us, chronology is what we are concentrating. And then second one, the Treaty of Pondicherry in 1755. And then the third Carnatic War. So here remember the 7 Years War. So here the British and France, so they fought for their dominance all over the world. And then the Battle of Wandiwash here. Okay, so all these we remember. So we have a good chronology here. And then coming to the last part, friends, ultimately it is like we have to pursue through the hard times. So these hard times will only give us to the success. So before that success, sweetness comes. So the hardness, bitter, so that has to come. So more and more we experience such ones, more and more we grow, more and more failures will occur. So it is an indication of growth. So if you shirk out from the failures, so but obvious your growth is becoming stagnant. So that is why the double degrees PhD holders, so they are working as the servants, and the people who are 10th fail, so they have become the masters. So make sure that you will grow every day. So remember Mahatma Gandhiji's quote that what we do today, so that depends what we become tomorrow. So do it. All the very best from my side. Good luck, friends.